what's up, y'all? This is Aaron Gordon here. We're back here with the Aaron Gordon podcast, and we're going to do our second part of this discussion, and this is going to be called discussion time.
A little bit on task. So I'll start off with the rioting and looting that we constantly hear. What's the proper way to riot? Really, is there a such thing as a proper way of rioting?
Mm-hmm.
But something that really stuck out to me, I saw through social media, because that tends to be the world's current news nowadays, I guess, for our generation. If they don't see it on social media, then they don't know what's going on. But looting, I constantly hear people talking about how it's horrible that they're stealing and stuff of the sort. But that I do think it's bad for people to be stealing. You're totally destroying the purpose of it all. But at the same time, in the same breath, they're stealing because what else is going to get your attention? Apparently, if we kneel, that doesn't get your attention. We peacefully protest, you destroy it. You have people inside the peaceful protest that are trying to change the narrative from it being peaceful to it being something that it isn't. If everything else can't get their attention, the one thing that I feel people know can get your attention is your pockets. When your money is affected, guess what? All eyes, look, the world is woke now. The world is all attentive. Everyone is on pro-Black movement, Black Lives Matter now. Before it seemed like we were just in it by ourselves. But I feel now that we have the stage, we got to perform, but we can't just make a mockery out of this. You got to actually put on a show worth watching. We got to be making the positive move, the right move, because if not strategic and you're just moving off emotion, that's easily anticipated. You know what someone's going to do when they're angry. You're going to act wild. You're going to do stuff that, is not logical. So, yeah, the rioting versus looting thing that I've been hearing, I totally think that's crazy. To think that people aren't going to steal and destroy your stuff after how many years of not being heard, that's beyond me. What?
I agree. I agree with you that we have come to a point that rioting is where we are. I just think that's what it is. I'll say that I personally don't agree with it. I just think that our efforts shouldn't be, our behaviors should not stem from our anger. That's just how I feel about it. But, like the Reverend said, writing, and I paraphrase, but writing is basically a form of communicating for those who are not heard, for those who are not listened to. And it's done so after, like you said, Markel, after peacefully protesting, after kneeling, after finding and trying to make change in a system that is doing everything in its power not to be changed, and has people that are doing everything in their power not to have it changed. So I completely understand, but I can't help but just kind of wonder, what now? We have their attention. You're right, they are for the movement now. But what now? If we have their attention, then we need to, what is it that we want to say? I mean, I've got a list of things, I've got the idea of implementing continual mandated de-escalation training for all people that are active and on duty, for all offices. I've got the idea that, that when it comes to anything that involves the police, there's an outside investigator, because you can't really trust people. So let's just say, matter of fact, yeah, Aaron's my homeboy, you feel me? And, I don't really know Martin too well, but Martin slide through and Aaron do something, just offer it smack on Martin. But they have me as the investigator. I'm going to be well, I didn't see nothing, I ain't hear nothing, I don't know nothing. So I feel like he ain't do nothing. That's not cool. But if Mary Kay comes in and investigates, then it's just kind of she's gonna get down to the facts, is what I'm trying to get at. You can't expect people who are born to have this thread woven in them, and are part of this group, to truly look at this from a more objective standpoint than anything. And so that's just kind of like where I'm at. I think people should be a little bit more understanding when it comes to rioting and looting. But I think that also while we have their attention, we need to push forward the things that we truly, truly need and demand.
Taylor, I know you had something to say.
Yes, for the what now, it's the steps that we take moving forward. So I believe like in different communities, we have different leaders and we have different people organizing protests. But I think for the Indianapolis community personally, because this is where I'm at, I think that we all of these leaders and all of these organizers need to come together. We all have our own list of demands, but we need to form one formal list of demands, however many, which there's a lot of new laws and legislations we need in Indiana, starting with hate crime laws. But we need to form one list of demands and bring all of our different supporters and people that have been coming to our protests together.
So how will we get that organized?
Yeah, what's our next moves?
So far, my organization, we are the Black Women in Charge, just because it's 6 other women and me that are making these protesting events happening. And we're not excluding Black men, we're not excluding other people, but that's just who we are. And we've been working with different organizers and leaders in the community to try to come together. Like after our last protest, I've had so many calls with different leaders of different organizations, pastors, churches, young people from different parts of Indiana. So we're going to try to bring all of us together on one accord so we can make a formal list of demands and I want to set up a panel for some people in my generation, the mayor, the chief of police, the governor. So that's in the works. So basically just trying to get all of us to come together on one accord to form a formal list of demands to go forward. So there's actually action. But I'm going to say this, we need these protesters and these people rioting, all of these people that have been coming out. I need all of these people to keep coming out to vote. And when these legislation and laws need to be put in place, I need them to vote for the right Congress people and legislators that will make this happen. Because we've tried to have hate crimes implemented multiple times in Indiana, but we're a Republican state and it usually gets denied or sent away and we forget about it. So that's our next steps. We need people to keep showing up, keep voting, keep pushing this urgent need for new laws and legislations.
All right, Deja, I see you ready to talk now.
Yeah, I want to speak. I want to speak to each. I want to speak to the looting first because that was first. That needs to stop.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Where do we draw the line from looting and rioting and protesting?
Yes, for sure. That needs to stop. And I'm going to tell you why. Because, okay, look, I'm all for burn the buildings down that matter. You understand what I'm saying? But the extra, we're not ready for this. And we also need to understand that this is planned. This is a system that we are not a part of. It was designed against us, actually. Okay, designed to oppress us. It's designed against us. So that needs to be understood. First and foremost. Second, we need to understand that this is bait and we're taking it. Just like the bricks are being set out, they want this. They want us to vandalize. They want us to tear up and destroy so that they can impose martial law, so that they can, and they're already starting. They're already starting with the curfew, with the police brutality all around the world. It's not even just here, it's all around the world. Like, that's why it has to stop, because we as a people are not ready for that. And to get ready, I'm going to speak to what's next. I feel like our society is going to have to become moral and ethical and righteous. And we have to get a code and not stray from that code. Like, we have to drain our swamps. And by that, I mean, every group, every culture has, people who are right in the head and who ain't. So that's what I mean by drain the swamps. Okay, we have to wake up and break the habits of being the robot selves and slaves that we have been. Because we all live like robots, to be honest. And the crooked part of the government and the CIA is intentionally programming us. It's intentionally desensitizing us. Like, you can look at the TV shows, the movies, the music that we listen to. Like, just look at look hard at the symbolism. Like, it's crazy. The games, Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty, it's so gruesome, you know? Like, you just have to notice what they're promoting. Like, yeah, we let them games, but just notice what they're feeding your mind consistently. And you'll definitely be able to see that they're programming us to sleep, to be non-thinking sheep, to be self-destructive by any means possible. And I want to also say that the American dream is a Black man's nightmare for sure, but also for any common citizen, the American dream only works if you're asleep. You can only dream if you're asleep. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's time for us to wake up and to see the vision. There's a difference between a dream and a vision.
So Mary Kate, obviously, you know, you're the only white female here, and obviously with everything going on right now, what are some of the stuff that you know, just been hearing from some of your friends? Have you been getting some support from family and some of your closest friends? And, you know, what are some of the things that you've just been hearing, and what goes through, you know, your mind when all this is happening? And, you know, do you feel excluded, or do you feel like you have to, you know, really push yourself to do this?
Yeah, it goes both ways. I mean, some of my friends are understanding, are, you know, trying to do the best that they can from their position. But I also have had friends that I've had to call out. And, you know, just today I got in a big fight with one of my friends, and she said I was attacking her because I challenged her. You know, she said the typical white trope of race doesn't matter to me, color doesn't matter to me. Well, what as white people we need to acknowledge is that color does exist, race does exist, and we have to actively disassemble the, you know, the privilege that we have over somebody else just because of our color. Like, I don't believe this whole I don't see color thing. Like, color to me is not a factor of whether I respect you or not, but I see you. I acknowledge that we are different. We do not have the same experiences. And that's something that I just think is like the worst thing white people can say. And she posted this long 4-paragraph Instagram caption and then had the audacity to come back at me and say, well, I just didn't know what to say. Then don't post, you know, a whole novel of something that you're not educated on. So to me, I'm trying to push my friends to educate themselves. You know, I've had friends say that I'm attacking them. I think there's a difference between attacking people and challenging their way of thinking if their way of thinking is incorrect. And so to me, I think that that's the work that allies need to be doing, is getting to those people that we have access to that are not educated. And furthermore, acknowledging that I don't know everything. I could never know everything, and constantly trying to educate myself, following Black creators, you know, Black authors, Black professors, Black scholars, and Black activists like you all, and learning from them and humbling yourself and thinking, you know, I might not be right about everything, and I might have to change my way of thinking as well. But in my own process of doing that, also trying to bring along people with me, so that this is not just a burden that Black people have to carry on their own, and it shouldn't be. And it has been for far too long, and that needs to change. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I appreciate being able to have these discussions with people who know a lot more than me, and being able to take this to, you know, people that I know and people that I have access to.
So if any of you guys want to piggyback off it, obviously, if you don't know Mary Kate, you were ranked like what, #1 best sports broadcaster. So if you guys just have a message, what would you want? What is something that a white person could do to help this situation?
So
I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
No.
I don't know. Okay, we'll start with you, Albany, and then we'll go to you, Deja. And then Martin, I know you probably want to talk. You haven't talked in a minute.
Okay. I just got done watching this webinar where a person actually asked that question, where how do I, as a white person, have these conversations with another white person? And that individual who answered the question, her name is KB. You can follow her on Instagram at heart_convos. I 100% recommend that. She's actually a Naptown native. But anywho, I digress. One of the things that they said that you can do is you want to first try and relate to someone, because everything, when it comes to conversations and when it comes to trying to bring up what I like to call like sensitive topics, it's about developing relationship, developing rapport, and establishing, even if like if this is something that even matters to that person. But once you get through that, it's kind of like trying to bring in something that you guys can like maybe laugh about or understand, and then make an analogy based off that understanding that relates to race, to try and get them to see your point of view without making that individual maybe feel small, especially if that person has maybe authority over you per se. So that's like a tactic, is truly trying to develop true meaningful relationships, and then have those heart conversations, as she says, based off of the strength of the friendship, the relationship that you have with that person.
Deja? All right, we'll just go to you, Martin. We'll come back. Oh, Deja, you good? All right, Martin, we'll just go with you.
Yeah, definitely. So, like I said, I appreciate every viewpoint that all of us have. I think they all valid. Um, but I'm gonna kind of sidetrack for a second, just for a slight second,
Mm-hmm.
and talk about what was initially brought up, which was the whole looting conversation and the writing conversation. I had a lot to say, but I just want to listen to everybody. Before anything, whenever I talk, I always promise God that I put him at the forefront before anything that I do on any platform. Because I'm a man of faith before anything. And I think what it comes down to, and people have been arguing with me about it, because I did a Facebook Live that hit about 10,000 views. And this happened yesterday. And my argument was like, you have to know, basically what I was saying was, before anything, you have to know what God is leading you to do. And for me, it can be different for somebody else. But I know for me, I believe in peace, and I believe in love, and I believe in forgiveness, because that's what God teaches me to do before anything. So I know for me, I know that at the end of the day, like, yeah, looting, you know what I'm saying? If you're going to loot a place, I feel you should loot the people that did you wrong. But it's Black businesses that are being harmed. I had a friend whose parents own gas stations, a black friend who owned gas stations, having in Michigan City. They vandalized their whole gas station. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, what's the purpose of looting? At this point, you just finessing just for the benefit of yourself, not for the cause. You understand what I'm saying? So I think it's just more so it's a self thing. And if you get wrapped up in this self thing, that's why the Bible says that in the last day, there'll be a lot of prideful people. There'll be a lot of people that are just looking for stuff for self-gain. So I think it's one of them cases where this is what's happening right now. If you read Matthew chapter 24, if you read Revelation chapter 20 or Revelation chapter 2, it talks about all this stuff that's going on right now. So it's not a surprise. So for me, when it comes in terms of this looting and the rioting and stuff like that, indeed, peacefully do it. Indeed, peacefully do it. But what is your intention behind it? What is your heart behind what you're doing? If your heart is for yourself, then you're doing it for the wrong cause. But if you're doing it for the reason of a just cause, for George Floyd, if you're doing it for Sandra Bland, if you're doing it for Trayvon Martin, if you're doing it for these people, Kendrick Johnson, that happened in 2013, rest his soul. But if you're doing it for that cause, then so be it. But at the end of the day, I know personally, I'm not going to loot, because at the end of the day, that's somebody else's property that I'm messing up. And I know for me personally, that's just something that I just cannot do. And then for the second part of the question, I'm sorry I'm being too long. I just feel like what everybody said really pretty much kind of like just took my viewpoint. At the end of the day, I think it just comes down to having an open heart. You got to have an open conversation with these people. And also, too, I feel as though you have to go outside your comfort zone, too, and talk to these people. Sometimes you have to initiate conversation, because sometimes a lot of white people, when it comes to this stuff, they can be very conservative. They can be very introverted when it comes to these controversial topics. So sometimes Black people, they might just have to just have these conversations with me, or Black people, because at the end of the day, I know for me personally, I lived in a room full of 6 white guys. So for them, it was just kind of like, man, I don't know what to say or how to feel about this. But I sat them all down. I said, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about what's going on. And then from there, our relationship developed and it grew, because we went outside our comfort zone and actually voiced our opinions and our viewpoints. And by the time, and it took about a month and a half to get to where everybody can have a common ground as far as what's going on. But sometimes it's not going to happen in 1 week. Sometimes it's not going to happen in a couple of weeks. And that's my biggest scare right now. Our generation right now, we go with the trend. It's like a fad. We go on for a little minute. We go on for a slight second. But then the next thing you know, it just dies down. Then it's like, where everybody at? So I hope with these protests that's going on, these riots that's going on right now, I hope they keep that same energy a month from now. I hope they keep that same energy a year from now. Because at the end of the day, man, what happens as far as our culture, we just go with the trend. And when it died down, we just go away and be MIA. You know what I'm saying? And I'm telling you, I made a vow to God when I said this. I said, at the end of the day, I don't care how long I'm living. I'm going to stand for this cause until I breathe my last breath. If it got to be to the point where my life is on the line for this stuff, so be it. So be it, because I know God called me to do this stuff. You feel what I'm saying? So I think that's what it comes down to. You just got to have an open heart, but also go outside your comfort zone too.
So this next question is this a society problem, a police problem, or a government problem?
All
right,
of the
I'll go
above.
with you, Taylor. Oh, okay.
All of the above. I think it's society. We don't like to have these conversations, so we don't have these conversations. And I think we still don't have segregation laws, but we naturally separate ourselves. Like in college, it's crazy. Everything's naturally just separated. You have the white parties, the black parties. There's a couple white people at the black parties and some black people at the white parties, but we separate ourselves. So I think in society, that's a problem. The government, that's a problem too. We don't elect enough minorities inside of the government. We don't have our voices heard inside of these high roles. We had a black president, but we need more than that. We need black legislators, black congressmen, black people in every form of office. Not like all black people, but I mean we need some, just to let our voices be heard. And then what was the third one you said?
Or government.
You said government, society.
Yeah. And government, society, or police problem.
Police. And then police, I think they need more training. I think they need to take cultural competency tests to see, because there's tests you can see what your racism and prejudice is on a scale, and they need to take those. They need more hours than just, I think it's like, I don't want to be wrong, but it's like 15, I don't know, but it's like not that many hours you need to be trained to become a police officer, and they need to actually be educated before you can just have a gun and protect and serve. I think it's all of the above. I think each branch of that needs help and needs some changes, some major changes. And I think everyone needs to do their part in each branch.
Markel, what about you?
I think that it definitely is an issue for all areas in which you hit on. And just to hit briefly on, the comment about the policing thing, like I really feel that when it comes to the way police, I think that the reason they behave the way they do is because I think it's deeper than personal. I think it's a cultural thing in policing. And the reason I say that personally is because I went to a church where a sheriff who also I'm from Chicago originally. So if anybody knows about some brutal policing and have heard some stories about the way that the police can get down with people of color, I've definitely heard the extreme ends of stuff. But here in Indianapolis, we had a police that was a sheriff, and he was also, going to the church I was attending at the time. And I went to Mardi Gras in Louisiana one time, and I ran into the same police officer that goes to my church. So, I'm speaking to him briefly. Long story short, he is no longer a police, and he was well ranked and he well paid, and the conversation in which why he didn't want to be a police, he told me that he just didn't really want to speak on because it was too, and I just questioned, like, what would make somebody leave a job that's well paid, that's well, and I think it's because him being from where he is to move higher up inside his ranks, he was running into issues in which he didn't want to be a part of. That's the only logical thing that would make sense to me. And I think that it's a culture inside the police. I think that bigger steps than extra training need to be done when it comes to policing. The tree is spoiled. It's not an apple. It's a rotten tree.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to add to that. The police infrastructure as a whole was born from the slave patrol back in the day. So, like, they doing their job. To be honest, that is what they are paid to do. They are paid to kill us. I don't know if you guys heard or saw a video, but it was this video of the record of a cop over their PA system or whatever, telling them to what they say, word for word verbatim, $100 for a nigger and
It was
$50 for
LAPD.
LAPD.
LAPD said it. Yeah.
Like, this is what I'm telling you. Like, that's their job. They are doing. There's nothing wrong because that's their job. Like, it's backed by the system. They are doing their job, and that's why it's our job as the righteous. Okay, with the level heads. What's your name? Her name's Mary Kate. That's
Mary
what you
Kate.
said.
Yes.
Obviously a righteous member of your culture, obviously. Like, and kudos to you. And that's what we need to do, is we need all the righteous people to lift up, you feel me, and speak life into and kick out the evil, because this world is so evil, it's full of evil. Oh, and I want to go back one more time to what Taylor said earlier about celebrities not doing their job and stuff. They're on a whole nother agenda, like a whole nother accord. They a whole different. The Illuminati is real. I can really go into all of this. I'm not going to, but like they are. They don't say anything for a reason. Like, we could talk all day, but I'm done right now.